Rodriguez. Member Nguyen.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to address us about our workshop item? Seeing none, we will adjourn to the table and have our workshop on the strategic plan.
Great. Come on down.
Come on down.
Calling Ray in on this or at the close?
No, you call him on his cell for that. That's right.
Okay.
Is he coming in for the
He's going to be up here by. I'll enter this and close it. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's okay. I think it's okay.
If I can take the time off of work, and I'd be done to go. Just that's what's up.
A little money to give for our salary, I can put back into the district or my professional development.
Hi. Wendy, this is, let me introduce you quickly. We're starting a workshop, but this is Jan Crocker, one of our board members. This is Dr. Wendy Liao, our new principal at Schilling.
I'm excited.
Yes.
And this is Nancy Thomas,
Nice to meet
our
you.
board president.
I love it when people come from North Dakota? South Dakota.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. It's close
You're really from
enough.
New York,
Yes,
right?
But really
Dan
from
and
New
I
York.
grew up in Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right
Midwest.
next
This
door.
is Francisco Preciado, one of our board members.
Hi, Wendy.
Thank you.
Frankie.
Welcome. I know we're going to introduce you formally at the meeting, but we're starting our workshop. You're welcome to sit in the
Sure.
audience if you like. You don't have to
Yeah,
seats.
so.
Do you want to chat with her on a few things?
Yeah, we may go
Yeah,
chat.
go
and
for
come
it.
back,
Yeah,
so
I'll see you guys in a little bit.
What time?
Okay.
We're going to start closed at 6. Did you have anything for closed?
Yeah,
Yeah, then come back at 6.
so I'll come back in.
And then we're going to introduce you at the beginning
I'll
as soon
come
as we
back
can.
in at 15:20, so
Okay.
5:30 you said Peace is going to be here? I'll
I'll
be back
text
here
you
at
when it
5:30.
arrives.
Here you go, Nancy. Enjoy the graphic. I picked it up on myself.
Oh,
See if you like the metaphor. So I wanted to share this with you guys.
Steve, I love it.
Did you call Ray?
It's kind of dorky. I'm dorky.
Did you call Ray?
Oh, let's call Ray. Sorry.
On his cell, sorry.
Would you give me his number?
Sure.
Dial 9 or
At
8?
8. I think they got changed.
Let me
Sorry,
see.
I don't know for sure.
I have it here.
It's 468-0792.
Oops. Oh, the 8 went through. What's the number?
8468-0792.
What, Steve?
His phone number.
Posting ahead. Oh,
No, Ray's phone number.
oh, do we have, oh, we're on.
Let's try it again.
468-0792.
We're sorry. You must first dial 1 when calling this.
Oh, for Pete's sake. Third time's charm, I hope.
You can text him, tell him to call into this number.
Hey, Ray.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're on speaker in our workshop.
Got it. Thank you. I'm all set, Dean.
Yep. I wanted to start by just giving you guys a good 15 or 10 minutes to really just look through and read it, write on it. This is a draft. We did get some help from a communications person from CCEE.
Good.
And she's willing to, after we write on it and give her some edits, continue working with us.
And that's free too, huh?
No cost to us.
Yeah. Oh,
Right. Good
Yes,
point.
free for us.
Free for us.
Yes. But take some time, mark on it, write on it, ask questions. What we're looking for is a framework, and I wanted to kind of give you a
By the
starting
way,
point.
I love the STEAM resolution.
Yeah, it's looking
Yeah,
better, yeah.
it showed that there was input from the team.
Would you guys like a copy of what we're looking at here?
There's one on the back table.
This one's color though, you gotta look at the color one. It's more fun. But I want it back, I'm just kidding. So you have the document, right, Ray?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just give you some time to process it. Hey, Tom. Hey. Just got it before you. You just kind of give me some time to look at it. Okay. Mark it up, write questions. Just kind of stays on by phone.
Wow, this is, reads well.
Get a pen.
Keep it, I'll get
I
some.
can,
We keep it.
I feel you
More,
want it.
believe me.
I like your pen.
Like, it was up here on the dais.
Do I have it here?
Frankie's got one of your pens, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that's right.
It sits back.
No, I'm good. And the fourth one would fit under role one, but she had a lot of latitude how to put it together, so she separated the strategic imperative and added one we haven't done.
Oh, yeah, the 5 one.
But it'll just fit underneath number one, I think. But I didn't want to mess with her flow. She was doing good work.
What did you say? I just missed.
Oh, you'll notice there's 4 strategic imperatives when there's actually just 3. So that's just that should be probably embedded somewhere else. But PD would be part of goal 1. And teacher retention would be part of goal 1.
Well, those are not our,
They are, except for number 4. That's
no,
not.
well, no, they're not, they don't talk about increasing enrollment.
Right.
It doesn't talk about,
Oh, okay, yes. No,
It
those aren't ours yet.
those aren't
Yeah.
ours, yeah.
Yeah. I only caught that one. I knew we didn't have 4, so we could change that.
It should be the ones that you
Yeah, we have actual ones.
have written.
I really asked her to look at kind of the format and the flow and the structure. She knows that we'll have edits and be going back and forth.
I always get this piece confused. CASP and SBAC, two different tests.
The test is called SBAC, the results are called CAS.
It couldn't be easy. So the big goals on these pages are correct. Like on page 12, Nancy, that is an accurate comparative. Goal 2, goal 3, those line up.
Yeah,
Sorry, on page 8.
so
So we need to make them all congruent.
where's goal 1 listed? Back here.
Page 8.
Yeah. Isn't it nice just how laying something out, you know, in a coherent way like this with,
Give you guys a few more minutes, then we'll kind of get into it more.
So it's like the sub-goal, so like page 8, strategic goal 1, the broader one, the objective is like number 1 here,
Right.
prepare folks to.
Right.
So as long as we just put these under the main.
Be able to, yeah, we'll resort that and be able to drill down it, but it should be a common format. It's really kind of the framework, like what the board asked for is the framework. But it is a draft, it's not a final product at all, but it gives you a better feel for what it could start looking like. I like page 23, that way it lays it out as well. That's kind of a good marketing tool.
Under goal 2, they're talking about bullying, that's a financial.
Right, so we need to sort that out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not,
That's what you were
it's
talking
really more
about?
the format. I think there's a lot of like the,
Yeah,
like polish editing.
yeah.
I really wanted to just see if you like the format and the structure and flow. And if you do, before we go into really defining it more accurately, you want to make sure you guys had a feel for it.
Right.
But it was a bit of a Frankenstein monster the first couple drafts. So let me just share where we are and how we got here. This is a mixture of what the board has put together in the retreats we've had to this point, and some of the workshops we've had, as well as staff work, largely Ed Services, and the team that I took to CCEE. We spent some time working on this the last retreat that was in San Jose. And then that's where the person from communications at CCE said, well, I can help kind of polish it, get into more of a congruent document, and then you guys could help really refine and edit it. So it's very drafty. It's nothing that's ready for, you know, public consumption yet, but it's starting to get a better feel for something that's more congruent, that makes sense about what you want. So I think part of what I wanted to do today is kind of go through, and if there's stuff you guys like, or things that you notice that we need to tweak or correct. I wouldn't worry so much about the alignment of the goals. I know that's something that I've seen already that we need to look at. But is there something else we need to add? I thought that page 2 could be, here's our Board of Education. That might be a good page 2 in the document. But just in general, your thoughts and ideas around it. And then we'll take notes. Shar and I can take notes. And certainly if you want to kind of process it a little bit, take it home, mark it up with the marker, and get it back to us. We'll take edits however we can. And then we're going to run through a few more drafts with staff. We have it as a Word doc. We own it. It's not belong to anyone else. And I do have it in a Word doc as well, and a PDF. But our goal is to kind of just get a framework that we can start going through, I think, a little bit more of a community engagement process with schools next year, and even starting people looking at it before they go to summer, and try to see where people feel like, how does the school show up in this, and what are some of the initiatives we're taking at a deeper scale. But what are your impressions of it, at least first glance, and kind of feel for it?
So with what you just said, there is a recognition that goes 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
The objectives and everything in it has nothing to do with goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing about
Bullying.
finances in
The bullying.
goal 2.
Right, so we need to make the actual,
Yeah.
we'll embed the actual strategic imperatives and limit it to those 3. We haven't done that.
I mean, in the actual written portion itself, under goals 2, for example. Where it
What
says
page are you on?
12.
12?
Yeah.
Okay.
12, and then the dog here to 17.
That's what I was talking about before.
Goal 2 is fiscal solvency, and all the objectives and
Or about
everything
something else?
about something else entirely different.
Okay,
And then same thing with goal 3, talk about increased enrollment, and all the objectives about something else.
okay, we can clean that up.
So, yeah, looks like goal 1 is amply covered, but maybe too well covered. In other words, maybe there's too many things that we're trying to do in the strategic plan
Okay,
under goal 1.
okay.
So how did the pre-K 16 vernacular come up? Because that's kind of the first time I've heard it in this district, as far as being spoken of. I understand what it is, but how does that?
What page are you on now?
Just throughout the document.
Okay.
where it's.
So what has been our common language around that for Newark, K-12?
Yeah, it's been very. That's why the K 16 is.
Yeah,
Not that it's wrong or bad,
it's
but
just
it
new,
just hasn't.
it's a new,
Like how does that come?
Yeah. We do have a wonderful organization, Kidango, that's at 2 of our sites. You know, we might want to think about
pre-K.
expanding to all of our sites, a robust preschool, or at a number of our sites, so all parents have an option to use one of our sites for preschool.
Isn't funding coming down the line for preschool? Isn't that some of the things that they're talking about?
Well, we call it TK.
Right, that's transitional, but pre-K would be different, would be younger.
Starting at grade
3, rather than
3-year-olds.
4.5.
And that's a conversation that we would need to have in terms of like a universal preschool that the state has been discussing.
Yeah,
But that's,
They haven't
that's
discussed it, but they haven't funded
But
it.
it is
So
a-
until it's funded, but if this is open with that being available, then it means there's flexibility.
Do we
down
want to
the line
say
or change.
TK-12
I think
for
we
now?
want to say TK-12.
T we have for
because
sure.
we have been saying TK-12
TK-12,
Yeah.
just to make it
for
consistent.
transitional
Yeah.
kindergarten.
But I think we do have, I think you're right, it's really how to, and that would be part of the long-term planning, maybe is, for me, that might fit under goal 3 about enrollment. That might be a better fit where we talk about moving maybe towards universal preschool.
I think that's a curriculum thing.
Well, yeah,
I think that they basically, because we're talking about getting kids at a point and getting them ready so that when we're talking about kindergarten, it's going to be, I mean, kindergarten right now is so far advanced to what my kids had in terms of what they offer in kindergarten. The kids that are ready.
okay. Other feedback?
So are we keeping goal 4 or we're not?
No, we would just strike it out. I think I would embed it. I wouldn't strike it out. I'd strike it out as an imperative, but embed it within goal 1.
So
Because that's still part of goal 1 is
Sure.
how I see it. But
So what is goal 2 going to look like? Because that's really what's gotten us in trouble in the past is we haven't paid attention to it.
yeah,
it gets out of hand. It's like monitoring and doing things right, not spending more than we take in, period. You know, I mean,
Maybe I can have the person who's helped edit this look at the FICMAT report and vet some of those elements.
yeah, I
I
would
think that's
say-
probably the safest place to look for
Yeah.
language.
Yeah,
We're going to use any elements of the 04, as you said, incorporate that. I would be, or I am concerned about the comment, number one, where it explicitly states increase staff of color hires recruitment experience. I think that will get us into really trouble.
No, that's fine. Yeah, and I think that as far as that language, we can restate that a different way. I think we can say it just inclusive hiring practices or other, a different way that's not so.
Increase that,
What page was that on, Tom?
20.
20?
I'm wondering about, on page 6, you have the action words except for the word action. What about having, you know, analyze, reflect, develop a goal, take action, and evaluate? Those,
Right. Yeah, and this is one that, this has really been the core of the work we did with CCEE. I was even thinking in terms of action implementation or execution. So this is something that is,
or
Action steps.
take action, I don't know.
yeah, take action,
We're analyzing, developing, take action.
evaluate action.
You know, and
Evaluate and analyze.
the state puts the LCAP around our neck as a big millstone. But we don't say anything in here about integrating it with the LCAP, and we have every spring the plan steering committee. How will they interact with the parent advisory committee or the?
And that was a big part of the conversation. The person we're working with from CCEE, her name is Anna Tinktokalis, like it's a Greek last name, I can't pronounce it correctly. And she wrestled with that. She goes, how much do you want me to put LCAP language in there? And what I shared with her is my feeling from the board was that we needed a document that made it a little more easier to understand and not so education ease, so it doesn't like shut people off. But I think there's room to kind of show where it connects with LCAP or SIPSA goals. But I think that's where we are. As far as this model, this originally was plan, do, check, adjust. That was the original version of this model on page 6. Part of what we would want to do is get some impact from the field and see what makes more sense. So we have some buy-in into the model. But that's the idea, is that we would improve what we have and not just start over with everything, but keep what's working and work and focus on what's not working with a common model for how we improve things.
Evaluate and adjust. I like the word adjust.
Adjust.
Maybe put evaluate and adjust. I don't know.
Yeah, we can try it. I like take action, because the other ones all have more than one word.
The one here on page 9 about doubling the enrollment in advanced placement courses.
Which page?
Page 9.
Huh?
I don't know that should be an objective,
Right.
because it's not shown that advanced placement courses, you know, I think it's got to be more of
Right.
something that makes kids successful in getting their A through G.
Yeah.
And some of this came from this district where we lifted the model from was a larger district. They had a lot more resources than we do.
Yeah.
So there's some things they can do that we're not
I would,
able to do.
you know,
I think we increase the A through G graduation rates, which is.
increase A through G graduation rates as opposed to.
Because we don't have an IB program, even though I have no problem.
Right.
Should
I
eliminate
mean, I
that.
don't either, but
I have
I
no problem
think.
bringing it back. I was part of it, so.
So
we
A
don't
through,
know how
I'll increase A
successful
through
our
G
kids are at
grad
AP,
rates.
and if they're not successful, doubling courses and having even
Yeah.
more students be not successful is not a good
Well, I wouldn't
idea.
say that. I would say that we need to set up the systems in the beginning from K through 6 so that people can be successful. We can't-
Exactly.
Okay, you can't say that our kids are not.
Yeah, I don't want
Okay.
to put it in the negative terms, but I mean, the fact remains we need to make sure that we have a pathway that
Yes.
our students can go to and be successful.
Okay, yes, so having pathways, but I want to make sure it's not tracking. So
No.
we're tracking certain students of like,
Yeah, because, yeah, and I'm worried that we are tracking. I've heard some, things said about tracking at the
And
junior high, for
just,
example.
and just so you know, Ed Services hasn't had a chance to vet this yet. I literally got this at noon today.
Okay.
So normally I would have had Letty's team go through it and refine it, to be more close to what we're actually doing. So, but I wanted you to see it. I didn't want to have, like, wait until they had done it for you guys to look
so for
at.
page 9 for the district curriculum,
Mhm.
if we can incorporate STEAM, if that's the approach that we decide, because I feel like, I know the title says full steam ahead.
Where's the
but-
show up here?
But exactly, like we don't have it in, so if we can do page 9, like the district curriculum, like that we are adopting that
Right.
framework, and then as we, I don't know where,
I'd like to see a graphic for the instructional model too. Like a real graphic for what is the instructional model and how is that STEAM
oh, got it, yeah.
implemented
The
there,
different
right?
pathways or-
Right, well, something that looks more like, where did I see
Which you handed out at the last study session we had.
But just something that's more like this, like a conceptual model
Okay,
of how do we do it and what is, like, project-based learning or problem.
okay.
So something like that, that might be a better fit for
What
that.
about the 4 Cs?
4 Cs. Good.
Question. You've got listed down 2017, a number of places where there's no percentages. What does that mean? On page 11, indicators. That means that we just started in 2017? So that there's a
think
number
this
of
is the
places where
aspect.
that's sort of a default, looks like it's something that is used in place of information that's not there.
Yeah, I'm not sure where she pulled
Where
that
do you
data.
have that? Page
Page
what?
11, under social emotional learning implementation indicators, under 2014-15, she's put down 2017. So either we do not have the information from
Yeah, what does that
14,
mean? I
15.
don't know what that means. That's a good
I don't
question.
know. So it's found in a number of places. where it's
You're missing the pizza, Ray.
I'm good.
Yeah. The other thing, on the top of page 11, they're talking about career and future ready students who enter college on time, 52%, and then who completed college in 5 years. In other words, that's the goal that is, it's not a 4-year goal, it's a 5-year goal, because people
Right.
can't do it in 4 years. Okay. I think I think in here we also need to have how many kids need remedial help for having to take non-credit classes to be prepared.
And that data exists
One shot.
at our feeder community colleges. And I think it would be important to get baseline data right now from our community colleges on that.
Absolutely.
So my thoughts in terms of like kind of the visual and the framework, that works for me. I think as other folks have kind of identified, we really need to dive into the objectives more deeply as it relates to our area, and like so that it matches the focus of STEAM as a whole, and then the different conversations that we've had of how we're going to move forward. So potentially maybe we have that strategic, I really like that strategic plan steering committee as kind of an oversight for the strategic plan. I think maybe under goal 2, if you have some sort of financial committee in terms of getting the community engaged, like see here.
Same structure.
Exactly, like so
Yeah.
for the
For
finances.
finances
And this I think gives the opportunity, we do like, I know we're always struggling to find people to volunteer in terms of these pieces, but I think by framing it and getting the buy-in from the sites, the people who are on school site councils and the people, parents who donate their time for the PTAs, PTCs, that they might be interested in kind of some of these committees that if they met biannually or quarterly, it's not.
It's not overburdening them.
And then that way we have that communication, engagement piece with parents in the community. I mean, you could open it up to, it doesn't have to be only parents. That's the piece that we always, from a community side, we're really insular, and when it comes to like our communities, it makes sense because the parents and the students, but being kind of more inclusive so that the whole community can get involved if they choose to do so.
Well, our board is certainly inclusive as far as that goes, because 3 of us have no children directly in schools, and so I think that that's wise. Yeah. There's wording here on page 11. It says, help desk school-based tickets resolved at first grade. No idea what that means.
11?
Number 11, under indicators of embedded technology. So it must be something specific to that
Yeah, it
district.
must have been to that district.
So I think that we need to go through and make sure that that kind of thing.
I mean, I think this is a great start.
It is a
I
good
think that the preamble and the accountability dashboard and that stuff, you know, then I think it's a matter of now honing in on the 3 strategic imperatives. And I like the idea of the imperative number 2 being wrapped around the FitMax study, because it covers everything that we need to do.
So go back to, because I think we're going to do the goal 1 right now, right? Because we have to go back to the gap.
Yes. Yes.
So there's a bullet point, second column, first one.
Page
8. Where it says a common curricula, which is understandable for a district, and in common curricula and instructional model, how does that reconcile with teachers' academic freedom to teach in the style and manner in which they would like to teach? Because they were prescribing how they're going to teach a curriculum. There's going to be a lot of pushback on that.
Which bullet is that specifically?
First bullet.
Right there.
Oh, okay, I was on the wrong side.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we haven't had that conversation. I don't think
I don't think anyone has had that conversation yet. Because the common curriculum is understandable. That's a state adopted curriculum, that's district adopted curriculum, but then we add in common instructional model. Then we're getting into the details of telling teachers how to teach.
Well, we're saying that we want to have more projects involved, more group work involved. We are saying that, essentially, in terms of all levels, are we not?
Or is there more than one model? There might be
Making
different
the same-
choice within the models.
Increased collaborative learning opportunities, but that's still gives the teachers leeway to how to do that.
And we should allow teachers the opportunity to do that, so that within the framework of the common curriculum, the common core, that people can be creative. And for my class at this particular time, this project or this type of thing works best. And then maybe next year, this project works best. So giving people that flexibility, I don't think we should, you're right, I don't think we should prescribe that or stay away from that.
Or maybe there's some exemplar models that we pick, but I see what you're saying about the academic freedom. Okay.
Under objectives, there are 2 objectives for the academic growth bar. I think, but it's within that. I kind of don't see any smart goals with that in terms of attainable metrics. It's frankly broad, specific attainable metrics that I think pretty well for as far as increasing A to G by, whatever metric or increased graduation rate. There are 2 here, and they're kind of nebulous. And the first one is establish grading school performance targets to academic social growth. Conduct a readiness assessment for each school focusing on the implementation of curriculum, instruction, etc. And there's a lot of, it feels like there's a lot of legalese in it.
Yes.
Without going to heart of, we want to increase reading scores of all, 3rd through 8th grade students by 10% in the next 5 years, or we want to.
Okay, so that should be in the
Or
paragraph.
show growth every
emphasis.
year, so that we stay in the green or blue area.
So with that, I have an addition potentially. So you have the goal, the big picture, and you have the objective. If that were your objective, so number 1, establish grade and school performance. Then under that, then you'd have kind of the infographic or that particular piece that says this is the actual amount that you want to increase by within 5 years, right? So we are at 50% and we want to get at 70%, or whatever those numbers are, so then that way you still keep kind of the structure of like objective 1 and then under objective 1, and you say like the metric. And then
On page 14 is the measures of social economic engagement, cultural development, so forth. A measure page like that for
got it. So
the academic growth.
Or it should have called,
Which page are you looking at?
Page 14, there's a, which I love looking at it. I think it doesn't, because we hadn't talked about social and emotional, but in terms of academic, well, academic and social. This was from the survey, it looks like.
From the Healthy Kids Survey?
Right, right. But something that would be similar to that in format. It's readable. If you're talking about it, if, you know, assuming that at grade 1, such and such things will be achieved. At grade 2, such and such thing will be achieved. Is that correct? You want really specifics in terms of reading at a particular grade level or computing at a particular math level.
it's nice to have like, here's where we currently are, here's the goal, and here's the state to compare, like, to know kind of where we are relative to the state or whatever we want to compare it to. So maybe like inserting a column,
So
and maybe progress from last year to this year, or, you know, do we increase, do we decrease?
and I know, because this is always what we struggle with, we want something short so that people can read, but we also want more detail, so maybe it looks like, so here's what we could do. This is looking like it's going to be more like a 100-page document or 200, which is okay, but this is how, because that shows that you're actually thorough and actually thinking about the specific pieces. Anybody who wants to dive into that can read the 200 pages. We have some people who will analyze that, but for the folks who, at least the parents who don't have that, then what we can do is we can do one-page summaries or infographics of like strategic goal, imperative 1. Bam, like here's kind of what it looks like. Maybe it's 2 pages or whatever. That's 1, and then the other one's for 2, another for 3. And those are our materials that we're saying like these are our kind of 3 main foci for the next 5
So 1
years.
page for each and then followed by the detail for each?
So I guess what I was suggesting is like, so once we dive into this, it looks like this is kind of a good framework, but when we fill it up with the different pieces of the details, it's going to be more like 100, 200 pages,
Yeah.
likely because of all the actual pieces like that you mentioned of putting the metrics and the infographics. Then based off of once we have that, we can summarize. So look at goal 1. Summarize that into an infographic that's 1 page.
Right.
So that like if you're talking to a community member, you can be like, okay, you can go on the website and print out the 200 pages, or we have 3 sheets of paper here that summarizes high level
Yeah.
of what we're going to do.
I agree. I think we can get an infographic for each goal. That would be great. By the way, going back to page, she pulled them from somewhere else, I
Right.
think, you know, so we should create our value or put our values in.
We can update that.
You might give her the handouts from that meeting, that last meeting we have about our beliefs, values.
I gave her 8 documents to do this. I need to give her a
Well,
break.
Yeah, I think
I agree.
that, I think we're looking at format, and I think the
Right.
format looks very nice.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of.
Now we gotta work on
stuff.
contents, and Letty hasn't had a chance to even wrestle
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, yeah.
So I wanna run it through
Yeah.
Ed Services next, and then Business Services, and then HR, where do they embed the retention goals? I think that's good to mention in there. I think the retention staff training, that's important, but I don't think it's a imperative on its own. I think it's underneath number 1. And number 1 should be the beefiest one. I mean, that's fine.
Where's the rank and file site leaders come into this as far as their
Do you mean like an org chart, or what do you think about?
in developing this strategic plan?
They've been part of work. What they worked on most is this model of continuous improvement. That's what we've done with principals the most, and looking at, besides the other stuff that Letty's worked with them on curriculum adoption. They haven't seen it yet, but I wanted to get it in front of the board first. That would be the next step. So I think what I'm proposing is probably a full process to look at working through a closer document with staff, so that now we're ready to take it to principals and say, okay, what would you tweak? So I think we need to go through those steps next, but I wanted to see if this is kind of the direction. But we're nowhere ready for prime time on this. I think that if we're able to incorporate some of those things, I think then we're ready to take it to staff and community and parent groups. But I didn't want to, this is very drafty. I think once we get it closer to what represents what we do, then we're ready to do that. But I think that principals have been involved with different parts of the documents I shared. The board's been heavily involved, but we still don't have enough input from like parents and site councils. That's would be next.
What's our targeted date for completion?
I think here's my thinking is that if we're going to do a facility master plan and take 9 months to do that, it would probably be wise to do a similar approach with this and do a really grassroots, help us flesh this out so that when the facility master plan is done, it all becomes congruent with this so that you have a real process that gets a lot of buy-in. But we needed to have something for people to react to. Because I think part of the worry is if we just say, here's your marching orders and do it, there's not buy-in at this point in all the aspects that we want.
Yeah, that may feel that way though, because once you polish this up and take it into another iteration of a draft, and you bring it to the administrators or whoever is going to be involved in it, my feeling is they're going to be very hesitant to give genuine input because this is not a document that's been handed down to us.
Right, but at the same time, there's nothing in here that would be a surprise to a principal.
Well,
These are all things we've
A lot
worked
of them
on.
are part of the LCAP, and the other things are part of the FICMAC recommendations.
Steve's been in conversation since I started. The continuous improvement model has been there since we've been working with CCEE. So I don't know if the principals would feel like this is, I think they would feel that this is helpful to get into one page so they can
I
market their
think
schools.
where they need to have input is not on the data, because the data is the data.
Right.
It's on what are we going to do with the data? What are going to be our percentages? What do we consider is going to be a needed improvement? Or how are we going to change how we organize our sites based on this? Are we going to change how we organize our sites?
So since the framework kind of we're saying that this is like the way it's organized is fine. The actual like content of how much, like you said, in terms of the data, like is it going to be 5%, 10%, 3%, like in terms of growth? Those conversations are the ones that need to get hashed out
Right.
at the site
Yeah,
basis.
and they need to buy into it, otherwise they're just gonna say, oh, that's another number that came down from up on top, and we just,
Yeah, but the district office, put in the data. I mean, you've got the data, you stick it in, get as much of the information in a format that's consistent for each goal. So that when you look at it, you can anticipate you're going to have this kind of chart, this kind of chart, and this kind of chart. So it doesn't change for the goals. So that there's a consistency, and so the parents can look, and once they figure out how to read the first one, the second and third is not as intimidating.
And maybe it is, how do we get schools, because part of the goal of this document was to be kind of a LCAP extract that can be easily understood. And maybe each site needs its own kind of smaller version of, here's our site report card that fits with that kind of a framework that says, like, I'm thinking like a stoplight type of report card. Like they have on the dashboard. So these are the areas the school has that are green and blue, and here's what we're doing to sustain that. Here's orange and yellow, that kind of the cusp group that we're working on,
Okay, so I
and then
can see
here's a
that
red
in-
priority. So that's kind of where I think I would like to see it go next.
So I can see it in
So we
here.
have some common metrics that are anchored to the dashboard.
right,
The way I would see it here would be, okay, we have this framework of STEAM. This is kind of what we're doing. These are the kind of big picture, high level goals, and this is where this is going to have to happen simultaneously with, like, what is the overall district percentage of growth in terms of the indicators, right? Like from yellow to green to blue. Like, what are those goals? And then, to your point, that it would be helpful, to be part of this, each site would have their own one-page dashboard piece, so you would see where they're at,
And the same metrics.
and then when the metrics and where they're going over the next 5 years. So that adjusts, or like you can see. So like if I only have kids at the Memorial or at the junior high, then I might be interested in all of it, but I might just pick up that one to say, okay, where am I at for the junior high? Like, what is their plan for the next 2 years or next 4 years? Like, and then it helps me as a framework to
So that type of document is already built into each site's SIP.
Okay.
We just have to be purposeful in telling each site to make sure they have that that page.
Okay. So then maybe it's incorporating that in a new format.
Right.
How does a school know that if they're in yellow, how much they have to improve to go into green? And I keep coming back to that workshop I went to.
Yeah,
that
they go
said that
through I know that Letty's worked with principals, they should have a better answer than I would, but I know they've been working on understanding the 5x5 report and exactly like what are the cut scores from going from like yellow to green or green to blue. That's something they've been working on and how they're going to start messaging that to staff. And that's just kind of but I think that's kind of what I'm thinking we're after here is, this is not just the strategic plan, it's also kind of the district report card. But then you should be able to drill down and go to the site report card and have it look similar. So, and it should be, I think, aligned to those 5 categories. I guess it's 5, is it more? Of, maybe it's 6, of the dashboard colors and the pie, you know, the blues, all pie pieces. And so that's kind of where, it's 5, right? So that's kind of where I think it could morph into. Because in here it could be, the other way I've seen them do this could be a PDF, but then you could link into a school site report card. Oh, that's the plan. Okay, I want to click on that school. I can click on it now and it'll hyperlink to that school report card and it looks the same. I think that's kind of what we're after is what's a common reporting that we can use? And I think we might as well lean on the dashboard. It's already created.
every site has a
Everything's
dashboard,
there,
right?
right? But I think just to make it in a format there's not all the pieces we want to see as a parent are in the dashboard. Like you might want to, you know, what's the total enrollment? What's a lot of those things are there. The breakdown, ethnic breakdown. But where are they in green and how green are they? Are like close to the going blue, or are they closer to tipping back into yellow? So I don't know. I think that's the part that I'm wrestling with CCE about.
And then the test itself is not reliable yet. You know, it's from year to year.
So before we get too hung up on the color of the dashboard, because that can be very deceptive in terms of data measurement, they probably should focus their goals on the actual numbers itself, whether it's increase or decrease.
Right.
You know, so for example, in the suspension pie of the chart, one of the metrics, if you suspend a very, very low number of students 1 year, and next year you increase by 2 students, even though you're only suspending like 5 students over the year, you would get a orange.
Yeah.
Right.
And you wouldn't get a green or blue.
100% increase or whatever.
Yeah, you'd show exactly a huge increase in suspension, even though your starting point was already so low. So
Those suspension rates are.
Well, right. So that's a good example from my perspective. As someone absorbing the data, I would like to see the color and then the number right under. So then when I would ask, hey, I'd ask this site, this doesn't make sense. We were blue last year. Why are we orange this year? And then like, okay, look at the absolute number. From last year, it was 0, this is 2. Oh, that's it? That means, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So that way you give people like the full data. I feel like if we just had the number, then it's how you interpret data. I guess that's why they did the colors, right? Is you see that like, am I really going to be like 0, 2, 4, and then we always look at the numbers. Just having both, I think, would be good.
And that's kind of what I was thinking about, like the cut scores. So if we look at, here's a category called green, and we know that we're, and then there's another category below that's, I think the next one down is yellow. It's, at what number do you tip from yellow to green? And then what's the distance numerically between, that covers that span of yellow? So where do you fall on that plot? And how close are you to the next deviation?
It's more complicated than that.
I know it is.
It's not just a straight number or numeric cutoff point. There's that, there's a number numeric cutoff point, but also there's an annual increase or decrease.
Yeah,
Right.
so
And
growth
so it's
as well.
Correct. So there's a 2-prong
Growth and
to
status.
dictate that, the color that you get.
Right.
And so
Because it
it's
goes
not
this
straight.
way and up.
Yeah.
So if you have the number and the color, I think it gives the data for folks. I wanted to go to the front. It says Blueprint 2025. If we're looking at 5 years, unless I'm doing math, wrong, it would be 2024 if we started. Not
It just sounded cool. There was no other reason for that. So there wasn't any. There's no like reason that that number was on there.
Okay, and the reason
So that could be anything.
I mean, the reason I say that is because I think about there's two things of what we should think about. One, when the first time we get the full strategic plan, we will have it and we will read it. We're going to buy into it and get everybody on board to move forward. Then, by looking at Blueprint 2025, 2024, whatever number it is, that knowing that the goal is when we're going to continuously evaluate it, but by 2024, whatever number it is, did we meet all the goals? So, so what is the end goal is for us to get to these points. So we have to make sure that if I were looking at it, if I was 2025 right now, and I looked at it, I would be like, oh, wow, so this is what they wanted to do like 4 years ago. Like this is where we're at today. I can be able to say, oh, okay, what happened? Did we do good or did we not? Like, yeah.
Right. So the person that was drafting this, did they have privy to the resources, the assets that we have as a district?
Not while she worked on this. She only had what she could find online at the state level through CCE, whatever report she could find. We sent her some of the foundational documents we had, but we didn't share all of our data with her. But she's willing to stay with us and continue to work at no cost to kind of help us polish it. But she just wanted to get a kind of a first feel of what do you guys want to see more of, or how can we tweak it more. And I think the other piece of the 2024, 2025 is, I think the next step has really got to be about what's the engagement process to really make sure that there's buy-in here. Because I think kind of a little bit to Tom's point is, we get too far along and make it too polished, then people are going to know that, well, you guys already decided, why don't you just tell us? And the reason I think it is draft, because it really is a draft. I think we want to hear what's the best way to report that. Is there common? There might be a different way that elementaries want to be reporting metrics than a junior high and a high school. I mean, it might look a little different, but I think as long as there's consistency, because I think part of what I'm thinking, if we had something like a school site report card, we should have a standard way that a school does a report, like in the spotlight, so that we know, hey, we know that you've been working on special ed as one of your goals. How's it going? What are you doing? You know, or ELL or math or whatever that is. So that's the challenge, is how do we, my understanding and my belief is that the goal of this is to help build coherence in the system so people know what we're really doing. But right now, I think the starting point is at least trying to get it to say what we're doing right now, and then take it to staff through a process that says how
I
we
agree,
improve.
and I think if you position it in such a way when you meet with the sites and with staff, that you're soliciting input to adjust and update it, I think people always react, at least I do, to something that I can start with.
Right.
Rather than brainstorming a whole list of ideas. In a way, through our discussions, through our LCAP, through our survey of parents, we have a lot of this data, and it even says so in the beginning. I think we need to hone it down to a draft which we can ask the community to fine tune and buy into it in the process of helping us fine tune it.
Yeah. So I think the staff should weigh in heavily on how.
Yeah, and is it realistic? What are the realistic goals that,
Well, I would say in terms of next steps, we'd be outlining, like, since this is a priority, because we have the 3 strategic imperatives, but if we don't have the metrics of what we're going to do within those 3 strategic imperatives, then we're kind of just going to...
Or how we're going to do it.
Or how we're going to do it, and it's kind of in circles. So for me, it'd be figuring out, like, or I guess figuring out what are the next steps for us, because we know the next steps for you would be you checking with your team. The first thing is your internal team, and then it's going to be the sites, and then that piece, and then when we can figure out a timeline, or what do you think for coming back to us to discuss once that input's happened and we have more
Right.
specific.
I think by next round, I can have Ed Services do a little bit of tweaking as well. So I think you can see another draft by May 15th. Our next iteration, I guess I would say. But also some recommendations on process. I think that's fair. I know that if I had had time, and if I could have given Laura and Letty time to really look at it and, you know, help make it feel more Newark-ish, I think it would feel a lot more congruent. But I also didn't want to bring you a finished product and say, you know, this looks great, and you don't have to tweak it. I think that's part of the process. I think the more we can all kind of get in this, well, I don't like that, can we change that? And then eventually, if we have a good process, then people will feel that this is really representative of what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I like the framework, so it's like for me.
It's a start, it's just a start. So it's not a finished product. But I think we could have a better handle on where we're going with it. And if we do an extensive process, and we go to 5 years, it might be 2025. And that's okay if everyone agrees that input's gonna matter, just like it will with facility master planning.
So many of the things in the FICMAT report are part of the finance department. If we could have Kim, Lola, and her team parse out, you know, that strategic imperative number 2, but
Right.
it just feels like they would. Right now, I sometimes wonder if they're included.
Right.
Whereas if they're the ones that actually do the work, and then, you know,
The FICMAC only speaks to one piece of it, which is the monitoring and ensuring that we're following fiscal responsibility. But I think within goal 2 of that solvency, there's, I know we've discussed in the past about parcel tax, and it's kind of been just pushed aside for now. That should be in there. And then just overall strategies to further, you know, operate our district
right,
efficiently.
so, I mean, and that would be the higher level piece, but for the monitor and get everything under control, and make sure it stays under control, that could certainly be a piece that the finance team does.
Yeah, I guess I'm saying it's not just all.
It's not just all
them.
that, I hear you.
There has to be a much bigger.
Oh, it's a bigger, yeah, and it's, well, if you mentioned parcel tax, you know, right now, you might not get a very good response,
Yeah,
because I think
but-
we need to show that.
It's part of the strategy, right? Whether we succeed or fail, that's.
Well, but this is why you have to have a plan, right? You're not just gonna say, oh yeah, by the way, we wanna consider a parcel tax. Like, no,
It's a parcel tax against a plan for continuous improvement of academics and.
with specific metrics
Yeah,
and
specific
specific. So,
metrics.
for example, it would be we are looking at a parcel tax that will build a K-8 school in Area 3/Area 4
Yeah.
for the purposes of having this implemented of STEAM focus.
But that's why I think it might be wise to wait and do a deep process for next year for 9 months so that it aligns with what we're going to do with the facility master planning architect. Because that's part of our conversation today was it's really more about process that we want to pay for with the architect to really go to every site and get that input. This is kind of the same thing we're asking is, you know, every site, because we're starting like bottom up and top down. So I think that's kind of what I was thinking about recommending is let's go through a process now that if we at least could agree on the general ideas and principles here, then have the staff help us flesh it out from every level.
So I'm struggling with it out of my
Yeah.
face because I'm trying to figure out, because on the one hand, I'm like, I want to move forward because for so long, from my perspective, this is, you know, outside, like we've taken so long not having a plan, and it feels like we're all over the place. Like just until last month, we finally got a K-12 math adoption when it's like, so from.
But we have the most.
I have that frustration of like I want to kind of move on this piece.
But goal 1, I think we have that. Once Letty is able to work through that, that's where we have the most information for this.
Okay.
It's goal 2 and goal 3 that are not really fleshed out as much.
But a goal one
But
That's
that's the
huge.
most important.
Exactly. That's
But
what-
I'm saying that one we could probably get in the format quicker than anything
Yeah,
else.
we
And that's what
need
people
a
care.
straw
I mean-
dog. I really think.
So I think we need
straw
something to
dog
react to.
Draft for people to chew on rather than,
Right.
try to make it bottom up. All of our surveys, all of our,
It should be both.
all of the stuff we've done with data should feed into,
I think we can do both. I think if the people really know this is really a draft and that it's not set in stone, I think that's the only danger, but I think really we can work through draft format with staff and just show that we're really listening to them, and I think that,
and I hope they do argue about, what the goal should be.
and what the
Because
priorities
if they think it's unrealistic goal, they may just ignore it. If it's something that they help determine the goal and it's a stretch, and we know it's a
Yeah.
stretch, they're much more likely, I think, to
Right.
buy into it and to
But-
have
and-
coherence
and-
around
and-
achieving
And
it.
you have to balance that from just, I would say, as a,
No,
not
it's
just us,
the
any organization,
actual,
organizational apathy of being
I
like,
sent you the wrong
well, you know what, yeah, I
Let me
think I can
send you
get
the right
1%. It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, you don't have to do anything to get 1%.
Yeah,
All you have to
right.
do is make sure kids go, like, so,
Yeah.
so you have to.
It's gotta be a
Yeah.
stretch
so-
goal, but
so-
so you
Yes,
argue about it.
Exactly, so,
Yeah.
and it's like, so you have this, you have to do both. You can't just be like, oh, you know
Exactly.
what, I'm gonna do, this crazy goal of 3%, even though I know I can get that easily. I'm gonna do 4% just to make it look good on paper that I got 4%, right? We really need to challenge ourselves as a district. I do like this idea of having it parallel to the facilities master plan, but I struggle with the fact that, I do want it kind of sooner rather than later, so I'm trying to wrap my head around, like, is there a way to just really move forward on diving into goal one, mapping that out, kind of presenting that as a framework, that these are our thoughts, as we're discussing the facilities master plan and getting input for that, because otherwise, like, if we think about it, again, being on the outside, if we were just to show up to these meetings for facility master plan, what do you want? Well, I want a beautiful building that provides world-class education for my kids. Like that's what, at the end of the day, that's what I want. But everyone's going to have ideas of how to get there. If we don't have a framework to even start the discussion, then for the facilities master plan, we're going to dream. Maybe we have like 5 arts buildings, but does that fit within STEAM? No, it doesn't, right? So we got to figure out like this balance of like moving forward on this quicker,
right,
and then the facilities master plan
right.
will guide that conversation, because then
This is already largely framed out in the LCAP and SIPSA plans, so I think we have a lot of that. But I think what was missing is common reporting structures and standardizing on the goals and how far they need to go, and what's enough of a goal. So I think that's, and I know Letty would be weighing in heavily if she was here. She's very sick today. But I think that, let me take another draft, run it through Ed Services, and I think we'll do another iteration of this at the next board meeting, and have a little bit more of a recommendation from Ed Services and how we can flesh that out quicker.
I just
I know we're out
realized
of
the
time.
time.
Yeah, we're out of
We
time.
should be
Sorry.
in closed session.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
But keep
move
the
on.
copies, and I'll keep, if you have edits, just get them back to me. I took notes from what we said today.
Next up, we're going to be moving into closed session where we're going to have conferences with our labor
You guys like some
negotiators,
pizza?
Take it into
employee
Okay.
discipline, dismissal, release, conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address any of these closed session topics? Seeing none, we're recessing to closed session.
I'll take this in our closed
sort of thinking
session.
you can have a
Okay,
receipt for Brian's purposes.